You're listening to Fucks Given with David Chambers from the Authentic Man podcast. Hello, curious fuckers. Hey, baby. Hey, Florence. You are looking glowing from your holiday. I swear like the tan is real, I swear.
Am I tan?
Yeah, you look like browner than we fucking get in this country anyway. Jesus.
It was 35 degrees in Croatia.
Hugga, can you bring some of that over here, please?
I tried, and obviously it did not work.
It's
grey as fuck in London.
You did not suck the right dicks, man. You need to suck God's dick and be like, yo, Jesus, make it happen. I don't know why Jesus and God are the same person, but it's the way it is. It's just the way. How are you, my lovely? What's going on?
I almost just left this recording earlier because I literally turned on the screen for the recording and I was like, guys,
like, nope, can't do today.
I was like looking at you, not talking, and my eyes were like filling up with tears.
Oh, baby. Why? What's going on? Tell us. Tell Auntie Reed and the curious fuckers.
Well, I came back from Croatia yesterday and the whole trip was like my healing holiday. I did a lot of like self-reflection out there, yoga every morning and journaling, listening to podcasts. Had a lot of realizations about myself and my like relationships and just a lot of things.
Fuck, like an actual proactive boner here.
I was and I was sad, like I was carrying the grief like for the whole holiday, and it was hard to, it was hard. I don't think I've ever been on a holiday in such a negative place before, so it was quite weird because you get somewhere and you're just like, I should really be happy being here because I got out of London during a pandemic, in this beautiful country with like beautiful lapping sea, like everything was wonderful on a little like private island, but then you're just sitting there like, but I feel really sad still and I need to go on a little walk around the island and have a bit of a cry and like sit and look at a sunset and journal. Like all this stuff.
And you went with Mama Barkway as well.
Yeah, I went with my mum, which was really good because I ended up doing some paddleboarding and I don't know what I would have done if no one took photos of me paddleboarding. My best experience of my life.
They were great photos. Mama Barkway did well.
I, like, on Sunday experienced my first moment where I was like, I'm actually happy again. Like, I feel like I was feeling happiness for the first time since my breakup, which was obviously a huge milestone. In terms of the breakup stuff. Paddleboarding was the first time I'd ever done it and it was so good. I loved it.
I feel like it's such a metaphor fun as well. It's just like, again, you being not so like afraid of the sea and then being able to go and do that on your own and like pushing yourself through this like fear of sea.
Exactly. Like I think the breaking down of that fear and phobia was it's like a metaphor for like just pushing past the fear and like believing in myself to do anything else. If I can do that, if I can get over the fear of the sea and paddleboard in the middle of this like Croatian sea, then I can do anything, right?
Yeah, you can do anything. Have you taken anything away from this holiday? Like, have there been any big realizations that you've sort of clutched to and big moments where you're like, holy fucking shit, my mind is blown?
Yeah, something that I brought up in my therapy session earlier today, which was like my first therapy session in 2 weeks.
Oh my god, intense.
Over
no wonder
2 weeks.
It's like as soon as you've come back as well, we've hit you with like all the Come Curious work. You've had therapy,
so much work, guys.
Like holiday blues, like the reality comes and sinks back in. It's a hard fucking day. It was always going to be a hard day, but you're here. You showed up. You're here. You're on the podcast, and you're giving it your all. Very proud.
I had a lot of like realizations about connections with friends and realizing that I have so many boundaries and like walls up around being vulnerable with friends. So which means that I put so much pressure on the person I'm in a relationship with because they literally are the only person that can give me like everything, and it's the only person that I'm vulnerable with, which is yeah, it's a lot of pressure. And I just, yeah, I had a bit of lots of little moments in therapy where I was just like, this sucks. Like, I need a little cry. And yeah, getting back from the holiday, kind of the whole of the heartbreak stuff kind of like seeped back in massively. Like on my train journey back from the airport, my mask was wet from tears because they just would not stop falling out my eyes.
But it's good. The crying's good, right? That's like how we physically process the emotions, the release. Like we need it to happen, even if you're like, I have no more tears left to cry. Like leave me alone.
Yeah, it was quite overwhelming though, because I was like, felt really good. Like on Sunday, my last day in Croatia, and then like coming back home, I was like, you know, I've got this. I can do this. And as soon as I was back, I was like, I don't got this. I don't got this. Like just another wave. I mean, I have this. Mm-hmm. But it's just there are waves and there are lots of, you know, hurdles along the way. So I'm just feeling very vulnerable right now, basically, because I just opened loads of wounds in therapy this morning. Yeah. And I just feel like there's just a lot of people pulling me in different directions, and I'm just like in the middle, like, hey, I'm struggling with getting out of this depression, and like I only got my breakup was 3 weeks ago today. Like that's not very long ago. I don't have my best friend like to be there for me right now, so it's just really hard.
Well, we just assume that it's going to be easy and that we've gotten over a hurdle, and when we feel good that it's going to be good from now on, and it's not. Like as you said, it's waves, and we have to accept those waves where there are going to be moments where you feel good and there are going to be moments where you feel low, and that's you have to ride those waves like that fucking paddle boat and try and get through it, because each time you ride that wave, it will get a little bit easier. Not massive amounts of easy, but it will become easier. That little hole in your heart will just end up closing up, and you'll be able to beat like normal. But you have to listen to yourself.
Life is overwhelming. Life is very overwhelming.
Yeah, I can imagine right now, especially after everything that's going on, and like
big parts of me just want to run away. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, shut down,
I'm like,
run away.
Should I just go and hide in a cupboard?
I mean, yeah, that will be the safe space, but you know, like pushing yourself through these moments of uncomfortability will mean that you grow as a person, and you push past. And the fact that you're doing everything so right, no one could fault you. No one could say you should be trying harder. You're doing all the journaling and all the therapy and all the good things, and supporting, and also fucking listening to yourself, because as much as we talk about communication, communication means nothing if we're not listening to ourselves and what our body wants and what our brain wants. And so it's trying to figure out what side you want, whether or not you do need a bed day, or whether or not you do need to push yourself for work or the distraction, and only you can make that call.
I'm one of those people that pushes myself to do everything, so I find it really hard to say when I'm struggling, and I find that when I do say that I'm struggling, people don't really take me seriously because I always turn up. And I find it really hard to be like decisive about what I want in terms of all of that stuff as well. But it's a weird one, I think, doing what we do, because whenever we do show up and whenever we are here, like it helps because of the topic of what we're doing. Like just sitting here and chatting now is better than sitting and just feeling like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm just gonna sit here in silence. Yeah,
we always do this, like when especially if we're not sure about a podcast or don't want to do this film, and then afterwards sometimes it just gives us that extra boost of energy in life, and it's really surprising. But it's having to push yourself through that first boundary. It's tough. Like, and as you said, what we do is very taxing. You know, like we are switched on 24/7 constantly. We don't have evenings. We don't really have weekends. It is constant from our side. You know, not to rub the productivity in anyone else's face. If you have a job that allows you to switch off, like relish in that, because you might not, and that can be fucking damaging for your mental health. And we really need to take that into account, that we need to do that. We need to make sure that we have, I mean, we set
Switching
boundaries.
off.
Yeah, we set boundaries for ourselves. We were
It was
like, evenings, let's not talk about, what was it? It was like every morning we would just message each other about work, and we were like, no, we're like, let's stop that. Let's say fucking good morning first, and then talk about
at least be like, hey, good morning, how are you? And then the work stuff, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at first we weren't doing that.
We weren't doing that at all, especially when we had like other jobs and we were like working normally and then doing Come Curious like in our evenings and weekends, and it's fucking stressful. It is so stressful.
I think it's one of those annoying things in life when like we have just got a new manager and things are starting to happen for us, and like things are getting busier, and there's just a lot of things like happening around the world as well. Like I'm going to a festival at the weekend and like another festival the next weekend, and it's just like, oh shit, now I have to manage like all the new things, actually doing things in life, and like not doing just work, because I'm a very like could just easily just do work person, and not do all the fun stuff.
I don't know a single person that's gone to a party or going to a festival this year that isn't not just like anxious but terrified. Like the excitement is past the excitement, because again, we have been out of fucking action for like a year and a half, if not longer. And so going to something big like that, even if you're like, yeah, I'm excited, that excitement can turn into like residual anxiety and just be sitting there freaking you out, even though it's something that you look forward to. And then you feel guilty for it because you're like, but this is a holiday and I'm really excited. But really you're just like, I'm fucking shitting it.
I think I have a lot of anxiety this week, probably because of the festival, probably because Quarantine Bay is playing there and he's going to be there.
That's going to be fucking tough. But you're going to have an amazing time. And again, it's going to be another like growth situation. Whether or not you have hard moments, you're still going to come away from it going like, I fucking did this. Yeah. I was thinking about it. I was like, well, you would either be at home feeling like, oh, you know, I should have gone. Like I feel left out. All my friends are going to be there. My sister and my friends are going to be there, or you would be there. There will be probably some uncomfortable moments, but you'd be there and you're having all the fun bits as well. Yeah, exactly. May as well turn a potential bad situation into something that's positive. You've got to psych yourself up, you know, be your best cheerleader. Be like, come on, fucking Florence, you can do
next
this.
Week I'll tell you how it all goes.
Oh shit, it's gonna be, I'm so proud of you for being able to do this. This is gonna be such a hard thing to do, and I feel like you're gonna have a fucking great time. And yeah, you're gonna have moments where it's gonna be hard and you're gonna be really sad, but those are really important too.
This is the first ever festival I've ever been to. I've never been to a music festival before.
I know, Florence. I don't even know. Mate, it's going to be so good. It's going to be fucking magical. I swear to God, it'll be like Disneyland for the first time. And you're like, oh my God, wow.
I'm just excited to like listen to music and dance and like have a good time. I haven't done that in a long time.
It's going to be like riding a bike. You'll get in there, get in a crowd and have a moment of like, whoa, this is weird. And then you'll be like, nah, fuck it. Like, you know, we only live once.
Let go,
enjoy. Yeah. Oh my God, I literally just said YOLO, like unironically. Fuck me. Whoa, man.
On that note.
Please let us move on. Well, this is perfect timing because we have an actual therapist coming to join us on this episode. So maybe you'll get some good nuggets of life info. Let's get David on. So he is a sex and dating coach for men and also has the host. Oh, shit, he doesn't have the host. And also is the host of the Authentic Man podcast.
Yeah, really looking forward to talking to him.
Oh, yeah. Hello, David. Hi.
Hello. I actually met you. Do you remember? I met you once in the Shush store in London.
Yeah, I remember very well that night.
Yeah. What else happened? You're both grinning from ear to ear.
Unfortunately, like nothing that exciting. I think I met one of my friends there, and he introduced me to you, and then we left.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Very nice. I love how small the world is, though. So, David, please tell our curious fuckers a bit about you, what you do, and who you are.
I'm a coach mainly, men's coach. I work mainly with men predominantly, but I do work with some women, and I work with men around. Dating from a place of authenticity and true deep connection. You know, the the mythical place that a lot of people don't believe that men want, whereas I find a lot of men come to me and that's what they really want.
That's so
I help
interesting.
a lot of men around their masculinity and kind of stepping into that kind of a healthy, positive masculine expression of themselves, you know, because so many men have got such a toxic view of masculinity. They don't even want to be masculine. They're like, oh, I don't want to be because I don't want to be doing bad things. So I help them kind of move into a place where they can be masculine men and be loving in the same time. You know, that place that we often forget, that, you know, men can be really loving and kind and generous to the world. And I help men and couples with intimacy, and I bring in a lot of my tantric learnings into that and help them just connect on a more deeper level, on a level that's beyond the physical, you know, get them down into that deep soul connection. And I also teach tantric workshops with my partner also, who you guys know.
We had her on the podcast.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I was going to say name and
Also.
shame, but that is not the right expression.
Name and shame. You know, was also, but I think she came on as Taylor Matched on the podcast.
Yes, yeah. That was a while ago. She was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we love her.
So what an
I think also
introduction.
it's really, I think it's really interesting coming at what you do from, I guess, the world and like the way that we talk about masculinity, and even the way that we talk about masculinity sometimes, which is like toxic masculinity, like we need to stamp this out, and it's like a really negative way of talking about it, and also a very unapproachable way for men to then be like, well, how do I then, you know, how do I approach this when you're just shaming me and like pushing me away and saying that I'm toxic? So I think the work that you do is so important. I think everyone on Love Island could do with a session.
Yeah,
with
thank
you.
I feel
I'd love to work with them.
Right?
that would be so interesting. I feel like I've been like toxic masculine obsessed at the moment. I've had to have a real fucking talk to myself this weekend and be like, yo, you need to fucking chill, because you can't expect everyone to be my own version of perfection. And I've had to apologize to a couple of people, men in particular, especially the guy that I'm seeing at the moment, and just be like, I'm sorry that I'm on your case all the time. It's not fair of me, because it's like I've already got my back up and I'm expecting for him to be toxic because of like his friends and his environment and the way that he thinks, and that's not fucking fair. So yeah, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say, and thank you for doing the work that you do, because, you know, I try and be like, well, we all try and be as aware as possible, but I think I went too far. Like, I jumped off the deep end and I was just like, oh, because you're listening to this type of music, that must make you aggressive. And that was a shocking realization for me to have. Like, I need to take a step motherfucking back.
Yeah. How do you, I guess, how do you approach the sort of toxic masculinity conversation in general with men?
It's an interesting one, that, actually, because, you know, I've worked with quite a few clients who are really afraid to do anything that could be construed as assertive, too confident, anything that could look as like overbearing, or anything that could be screwed as like toxic masculinity, right? But what that actually means is that these men are not potent in their life. They're not going for the things they want. Or let's put it from a dating point of view. You're dating a man, right? And there is certain parts of you that want him to lead. You want him to make decisions. You want him to feel his decisiveness, right? You want him to feel his what I like to call kind of that, his firm consciousness, right? And we're not just talking about penis, right? We're talking about his being, feeling firm, right? So you want to feel his boundaries. You want to feel his opinions. But if he's scared all the time to be seen as toxic, he's going to hold all that back. He's going to hide. He might even lie, right? And he's going to be basically being inauthentic to himself, which is going to cause him some internal conflict, but also create conflict around in his life. So a lot of what I talk about with men is like, what is it you really want? What place is that coming from? You know, because inside of toxic masculinity, a lot of the expression of that is really about getting what, you know, that man wants without care for anyone else, right? Without any love or care for anyone else in the world, right? So when we look at, let's take it to a political level, right? Because politics is easy to see. It's like, when we're thinking about things like climate change, right? We know that the loving and kind thing to do is to reduce plastic use, to reduce oil and fossil fuel use, right? But actually, governments and organizations are just raping the earth again, right? They're just taking everything they can take, right? Because they're not thinking about anyone else apart from themselves and their own greed, right? And then when we take that down to a smaller level to individual men, that's men who are like, okay, there's a woman in front of me and I want to take sex from her, right? They approach with this, I want to take sex from her. Whereas I talk to men as like, okay, you've met a woman, you want to get to know her, maybe you want to sleep with her. But actually, how can you bring your loving heart into this, right? And come from that place, from a place of wanting to connect deeply, to be curious, to understand them, to, take them on a kind of experience, right? So when you start coming at things from that point of view, it's like, oh, wait, I can bring love and kindness and generosity and balance and playfulness into this. I'm not taking anything. I'm co-creating an experience with somebody. And that shifts, right? You can bring leadership into that. You can bring decisiveness into that. But it shifts it from being toxic into being what I like to call kind of healthy and loving masculinity.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
How do men like get there in the first place though? Like how do they start that journey to be like, okay, I want to be more conscious. I want to be more aware. Like, because I think I'm just thinking about sort of, I guess this has come up a lot in like my thinking about men recently because of watching Love Island and seeing the behavior that is projected there. And I'm like, okay, this is a large amount of men in our society that sort of act like this. And I think I've kind of coming at it from a point of view where I'm just left a very communicative relationship. And I'm like, I'm scared of who I'm going to meet in the future because I'm like, well, what if, they aren't good at communicating? What if they aren't conscious? What if they're not aware? Like, how am I supposed to find men like this?
And I think this is the golden question that women come to me for, right? And I always start with yourself, right? Because when you cultivate this inside yourself and in your life, right? So, you cultivate this level of consciousness and awareness and, getting to know yourself, your emotions, your feelings, what's going on for you, what triggers you, right? You spend the time to learn about those things for yourself, right? And then we start to express that out into the world. That might be, you guys have this podcast and it's about raising people's consciousness when it comes to sex and sexuality, right? That's an expression of who you are. So anyone that's going to meet you is going to be coming to contact with that expression. So they're going to feel that. They're going to be like, oh, wow, there's this expression of consciousness through the work. And then it's going to come through maybe how you decide to exercise. Maybe instead of, punishing yourself through Ironman, you find yourself some yin yoga, right? And that's what you do. So when we start to become more aware of our own being, our own kind of past, our own trauma, our own insecurities, right, which is a big one for both men and women, we start to express that out into the world. Now, when we look at something like Love Island, the biggest problem is a lot of these men, they're trying to live up to, right, what they've been told men need to be. Right.
Yeah.
And that force is great. Like I said, big force, because there's so much that we see in the media and television and movies that says to be a man, you need to be 6 foot tall. You need to have massive pecs. You need to be amazing with women. You have to have a massive penis. You need to have slept with 100+ women. Women need to throw themselves at you, right? You need to make loads of money. You need to be really successful. You need to have a good status. You need to have a nice house. Now, a lot of men are like, because of their own insecurities about themselves and wanting to be seen and wanting to be meaningful and important, they're like, well, that's what I need to aspire to. So that's what I need to aim for. But in fact, it goes in conflict with their inner being, because really they don't want to be like that, right? Because they can feel for themselves like, I'm playing a role here instead of looking at who my authentic self is. The hard thing is that society has such a stranglehold on how men should be. It takes a strong man, or a man who's going through some pain, that might be mental health issues, that might be physical pain, to see doing this and trying to live up to this doesn't work. I want another direction.
Yeah.
That's so incredible. My brain, I'm like, how do I even say after words? Amazing.
So today we were going to talk about sex in long-term relationships and how we keep things kind of spicy, as Cosmopolitan would say. How do we spice things up in a long-term relationship?
I die.
We've got an ad.
We have an ad. We have been sponsored. It's amazing.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yes, and it's from a company that we absolutely adore.
I'm so excited about this. It's You know how we feel about porn. You know how we feel about ethical porn.
Mm.
And we are being sponsored by Ersties.
Yes.
An ethical amateur porn website. What could be more perfect for our first proper sponsor?
We are so thrilled about this because everyone at Ersties is amazing anyway, and it's porn through the female gaze. Just looking at their page, you can tell how ethical and inclusive they are, and it's just so refreshing to see after all the years that we've had of commercial crappy porn.
Yeah, and their teams are all female as well, which we are super into.
Pussy power.
They are an independent porn project based in Berlin, focusing on amateur porn and girl content.
It just sounds like a dream.
We've been deep diving into the archives of Ersties for research for this advert.
Yes.
And it's been fun.
Research. Yes, of course, research.
They're also all about natural beauty, which is so important in the porn industry because we need to see representation that is inclusive to everybody, every person on the world.
Yeah, porn
on
has
the
been
world, in the world.
Commercial porn has been so damaging. Like, how many of us wanted to like bleach blonde our hair, get fake tits, and we always thought that porn and sex was all about the male ejaculation, and that's gotta change. Where's our pleasure, especially for people who don't have a penis? I mean, penises do deserve pleasure too, but come on, share that round for the rest of us.
And also make it more normal for women to watch porn. This is porn for women, but also it could be for everyone.
Another point that we love Ersties so much on is, as Florence and I being ethical porn directors, the value and how hard it is for sex workers to get paid fairly. And that's a big deal for us, especially as we have worked in areas where people weren't paid fairly. Obviously not on our set and not on the set of Ersties as well. So as you're consuming their porn, you know that it's fair, you know that it's ethical, and you have no reasons to feel any guilt whatsoever.
That's why it's so important to pay for your porn in the first place, so that you are funding and putting money into the industry that you so dearly love to jack off to.
I feel like everyone who actually pays for their porn deserves some motherfucking hour-long oral just to say thanks. Should we do that? Everyone who signs up to Ersties gets oral. Hour-long oral from Florence and I. Done deal. It's sold. That's it.
Everyone's going to be signing up now.
If you end up getting on Ersties, please let us know what you think and shout it out from the rooftops. Give them a little shout out somewhere. Spread the joy, because we also love hearing that you love hearing the same companies that we love hearing about, that we love.
That's really confusing. So when you join up, we have an exciting trial offer for you, and that is 50% off.
Whoa.
So go to ersties.com/comecurious. So that is ERSTIES.com/comecurious.
And you should really know how to spell come curious by now.
COME.
CUM. It's come.
COME, because you're coming to us for information.
Well, yeah, get your come on with Ersties.
Do you work with a lot of couples to create intimacy and keep intimacy alive in their relationship? Does this actually do the things that we were just talking about with men, toxic masculinity, being conscious, aware, does that coincide with how sex then is in a long-term relationship?
Yeah, there's definitely similarities, right? Because one of the big problems is, a lot of women come to my partner, as I said, and they're like, I want to do this work. I want to be more conscious. I want to have better sex. I want to have more connected sex. And the man I'm with doesn't want to go on this journey, right? And often when you start digging in, speaking to the man, it's that he has fears. He has concerns. He doesn't understand. So this is where I think one of the biggest problems when it comes to long-term relationships and sex is communication. We don't communicate properly. We don't say what it is that we desire.
Yeah.
And we don't, on top of that, we don't listen to what our partner says they desire as well. And also in the moments where we are, having some sort of heated conflict or anything like that, we don't stop to think, we don't stop to replay things back to each other, right? So I think a lot of what happens is we have an argument and we don't finish it, we don't resolve it, we just kind of like, okay, I don't want to talk about that again. I don't want to talk about it anymore because it's painful. But if we do some practices where we reflect back, like I can hear, right, from what you're saying, that you're very angry, right? That I didn't do the washing up, and you feel unappreciated and unloved, right? Yes, I understand that. And then other partner goes, yes, that's how I feel. Got it. I fully understand that. But a lot of the times what happens is someone shouts about not doing the washing up, and then the other person goes, oh, I did the washing up yesterday. And then the other person's like, oh, but you only did it once yesterday. And before you know it, we've got an escalating argument that never really resolves itself, right? But when we reflect back, we feel heard, we feel understood, we feel seen. And when we start to bring this level of communication and awareness into our relationship at different levels as well as sexually, right, we start to come closer together, have a deeper understanding. And then when we're on the same wavelength, we can start doing practices that, you know, start to rekindle or redirect the energy back into the bedroom.
I saw actually on your partner Orsa's Instagram that you guys in your relationship have was it like weekly meetups where you sit on the cushions on the floor and you like have tea and you talk about all the things that are like going on in your relationship? I saw that and I was just like, that is what we all need to do.
The dream
in relationships.
Oh my days.
How does that work? How do you get to a stage where you are so open with communication, and where do people start if they want to start communicating more in their relationships?
I think an easy place to start is start with the things that you really like. One of the things we do in relationship is that after a while we stop actually saying what we really love about our partners or what we really love that they do, right?
Yeah.
So that the problem is when we say, oh, we don't communicate, often people take that as, oh my God, I'm not listening. I don't say all the bad things, or I'm not hearing all the bad things. We get scared, right? So start with, you know, talking about the good things, like what's going really well, what you really love about your partner. You know, maybe in the morning they hug you and you go, oh, I really love it when you hug me in the morning, right? Something as small as that, it starts the communication going, right? And to the relationship learnings, we call it, right? So we have a monthly check-in where we sit down, and it's a bit of a ritual now. You know, we get tea out, we got crystals, we light incense, we meditate. Sometimes we even we'll dance, there'll be tears, but we share in those times, right? And we just asked each other, and there's quite a few questions we've got now, but the basic questions that we started off with was, what's going well, right? What's not going well? What do we want to change? What do we want more of, right? And over the month, yes, there's anything that comes up for you through the month, you can add them into any of those boxes. If we talk about it organically through the month, we can remove it from that. But we have our own separate note that we keep. So when we come together, we have that conversation. And it can feel quite scary, right? Especially that second question. What's not going well, right?
You're like, am I going to push this person away? Are they going to not like me if I say this?
Or an uncomfortable conversation. Like if you're in a nice safe space, you don't really want to make it negative.
End? Yeah. Maybe, I think with a lot of communication and relationships, people don't say things because they're like, well, if I let them know that my partner's going to leave me.
Yeah, or start an argument or ruin the moment.
Yeah. And the thing is that if you avoid arguments in your relationship, if either of you had an experience where you've been in a relationship and you spend a lot of your energy avoiding arguments?
Yes,
absolutely.
I hate confrontation. So I avoid arguments on all costs with everyone in my life.
And what does that lead to for you?
Being a massive pushover and having to step down and step back and feel like I'm kind of alone in my and what I want.
And how else does that make you feel inside the relationship?
Oh, this is like a therapy session.
Sorry, the coaching hat slipped on real quick.
How does that make me feel in a relationship? Unheard, not listened to.
Right. So avoiding conflict leads to you feeling unheard, right? So, avoiding having the conversations you need to have leave you feeling unheard, which, feels slightly obvious. So if you were to say what it is that's, there for you, what's going on for you, right? And that was accepted, how would you feel then?
I feel great if someone just heard me and accepted what I said. I'm thinking like I'm thinking back to my like 4.5 year relationship when I'm thinking about this, because I actually had like I really tried to communicate in that relationship, and whenever I did, it was always sort of thrown back in my face. With, I'd be like, we're not having, I'm not happy with the amount of sex that we're having. Like, I feel like I'm not desired, or all of this. And then it would be like, well, like, you don't keep the house clean, you're really untidy, you leave things out. And then I would just feel like, oh, okay, so like this is all my fault. And then I would never bring things up again, because I knew that I would just be like blamed for things if I then questioned things.
That's fucked.
Yes, that is messed up. And it's defense, right? Someone is defensive, they feel attacked, right? That's what happens often when people bring up things. So there's a few ways in which we can try and word things even a bit differently, right? Is take ownership. Is like, instead of saying, for instance, I don't feel desired, it's just like how you would like to feel, not how you don't feel. Because that gives someone some space, right? Inside of that. That's not an attack, that's an invitation.
Yeah.
If you're like, I would like us to feel, really sexy, and I'd like to feel really connected with you, and, things like that, and say, how do you feel that we could do that or do more of that? Now that's an invitation for someone to go, well, or you can even ask on the back of that, would you like to feel that way as well?
Yeah. Oh my
and then
God,
that gives them space.
Yeah, why have I never thought of that before either?
This is
How
why
long
he's
have we
the
been
coach.
doing this podcast for?
It makes sense. Like,
That
I
is
think
so- yeah.
we both felt like that in our past relationships. And the easiest thing to say is, you're not doing this for me, and I want this, and I don't feel like this, rather than that whole, the positive side of things. It does paint a whole different spin on it. It's such a simple move, but like changes everything. My mind is blown.
Yeah. Did we get to the root of that first question, which was, how do we spice things up in a long-term relationship?
Yeah. So I think there's two ways I like to look at this, right? One is, a relationship is an entity. It's like a third entity. If you're in a relationship, if we can start treating our relationship as a third entity, which we have to give energy to, right? We are also part of that relationship, so we have to make sure that we get enough energy, right? But when we start to look at that as a third entity, it's like, that's a third thing, we'll call it the baby, right? Is an easier way to put it, right? Because a baby, we know we have a baby together, and it needs energy, it needs time, it needs nurturing, right? And a relationship is like that. And what happens after a long time is we forget that we need to nurture. At the beginning, it's easy to do, right? Because it's like, it's exciting, it's fun. Oh, you're exciting, you're fun. I've never touched your toe before. Let me touch your toe. Oh, that feels cool, kind of thing, right? Let's spank you a little bit. Oh, you like that? Oh, great. You like to be caressed and massaged. And then we've done that like 5 times, and then we go, we know what that feels like. Oh, I don't need to have that experience because I know, right? And this is one of the biggest kind of fiefs of spice in relationship, is the idea that we know what our partners like. We know what they like. We know how they like to be touched, because we stop exploring. We stop coming them from a new point of view. We stop seducing them. Right?
Yeah, and you start repeating all the things that you just think that they like, and then it just becomes like a machine when you're in the bedroom.
Yeah, you just become. And I think, I like I said, I work with men predominantly, and this is something I uncover a lot with men, right? It's because often, there's that, as we've talked about, the kind of the masculine imprint we get from society, it teaches men to be process driven and orderly and all these type of things, right? And it's like, dude, you need to bring some of that feminine energy into your being, that's spontaneous, that's got flow to it, that's trying new things, that's exploring, that's in the moment, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we start doing different things, try new things, talk about our desires, new desires that have come up? Because that's another thing, is like,
things change.
Yes, we are ever-changing beings, right? What we enjoyed yesterday and last year might have changed by the year afterwards.
Yes. Oh, I'll ask her if I can mention this in the podcast. If not, we can cut it out. But I was talking to my friend the other day, and she was saying that the sex that she has with her partner, she always used to love a bit of fingering, and like that was like something that really sort of warmed her up, and it was like what they always did. She was like, yeah, like the moment, like, he does the fingering. She was like, actually, I not really into that anymore. It's not like warming me up in the same way. And I was just like, well, you know, like tell him. Maybe tell him that you're not into the fingering at the moment. She was like, oh yeah. Like, yeah, I guess I'll just tell him that I'm not into the fingering.
I feel like that's even harder though, when you have that established connection, when it has worked before, and then all of a sudden you need to change something in your relationship that's worked for a long time. It's scarier rather than bringing something new in.
And I think people get offended as well if you're suddenly like, that thing that you do, yeah, I'm not that into it. And then they're like,
don't do it.
Wait, have you never been, have I been doing that this whole time and you didn't enjoy it?
Yeah, the embarrassment, the shame, like, I should have known. It's like, no, you definitely shouldn't have known. Bodies change. We definitely forget that more. It's crazy.
And we sometimes feel like, oh my God, have you been lying to me this whole time? You haven't liked it. I've been doing it. And then we start feeling shame. We're like, oh, I feel bad. I shouldn't have been doing that. Like, oh, I'm terrible. I'm bad. I'm wrong. Or we go the other way and get angry.
Yeah, I think the shame curtain like comes down quite easily when it comes to sex, because as soon as we're like, oh, we did something wrong, it's like, oh fuck, like, oh, I knew that was, I should have been ashamed of doing that in the first place, which makes it really hard to talk about, basically.
David, do you have any reoccurring problems that people come to you with, or questions that people come to you with, regardless of gender? Is there something that you're always answering and always coming across?
When it comes to, you know, one of the most common ones is like, okay, you know, we don't have sex anymore in our relationship. That's such a common one. Such a common one. Okay, we're not having sex anymore. We used to have really great sex, and then it kind of dried up. And you're like, you know, what happened? Oh, I don't know. He doesn't try, or you know, the other way around. You know, it's usually, you know, it used to happen and now we don't. That's a really common one. That's a very common one. And you know, the what I see most commonly in that is a bit like what we just talked about. They've just been doing the same thing for 5-10 years, and no one has thought to talk about it, and they have that shame, right? We have, you know, we can't ignore the societal shame that we are given, that is pressured onto us around sex, right? We've grown up, you know, basically, like I grew up in a Christian household. My mum is a good Christian Jamaican woman. To this day, I don't think she's listened to an episode of my podcast. You know, we never talked about sex. Sex was something you only did when you got married. So imagine no one ever taught you to talk about something, and then you're thrust into a relationship. Like, it takes years to unpack some of this. And a lot of the time we never bother to start to look at, you know, what's sitting in our kind of sexual shadow? What's the things we're afraid to talk about? And when it comes to a relationship, if we don't actively talk about sex, like as something, as a, you know, in the same way that we would probably talk about trying new food, you know, you would actively in your relationship go, you know, we've had a lot of pasta in the last week, you know. I know we've been at home a lot, but we had a lot of pasta. Like, could we try having some, I don't know, some curry? Would you like to try some curry? Yeah, we could try some curry. I haven't had curry for a long time. You know, it's that sort of attitude, instead of being like, oh, we haven't had any pasta. We've had pasta a lot, but I can't talk to him about pasta, because if I tell him I don't want the pasta anymore, then
he's going to be really offended.
He's going to be really offended. You see, we take it very personally, but it's like we flow and we ebb. So it's a case of like, how do we re-energize and bring kind of sex back in? And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is spontaneous sex. We all think that sex should be spontaneous.
I was going to say, how do you bring up those kind of things, like, oh, I want to change this, or like, can we try this, in a positive way without shaming our partner and without like saying you're doing that wrong?
Well, I think, again, it's to start with what is it you like. Start by talking about that. Like, I really enjoy, like I like to say to my clients, is a really good time to kind of not review sex, but kind of to talk about it is after you've had it, you know?
Yes.
To say, I really loved it. Yeah. And it's a really beautiful, it's funny. It's a really beautiful part of kind of the tantric lovemaking stages. One of them is kind of this after conversation where you talk about the beautiful things that you enjoyed in the lovemaking, right? Yeah. So it's a great way to talk and be like, I really loved when you did this, or you did that, or you did this, because sometimes we don't even realize what it is when we're with our partner, what the little things that we did that they really enjoyed, right? And we all want to please our partners more, right? So when we hear those things, we're like, awesome, great, so we'll do more of those things, right?
Yeah.
Now, in the same not necessarily in the same conversation, right, is saying, oh, I really love those things, and actually my body isn't enjoying that thing so much anymore, right? And it just simply is like, oh, my body's not enjoying that so much anymore. And also it's like, have a lightness to it as well when we say it, because when we go into something with the mentality of, oh my God, shit, if I say this, they're going to go fucking mad, they're going to be upset, they're going to be offended. Everything comes out in your words, right? All that emotion, all that feeling comes out in your words. So it's almost like you're waiting for their response to be in line with what you think, right?
Yeah.
And we're amazing at finding a pattern even when it's not there. Like someone might go, oh, okay, really? And they'll be like, oh my God, we've offended them. They didn't say very much. And actually bring more relaxed energy to the conversation. It's just, knowing that you're just expressing your likes and your dislikes, and that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And if someone does kind of come back and say, oh, I thought you used to like that. And you say, yeah, and I used to, and I may do again. But actually what I'm feeling for is, and then we put something in place what we'd like to try.
I feel like when people talk about spicing up sex vibes and stuff like that, people always go like to BDSM or to like role play, and that scares people.
Yeah.
It scares people away from like spicing things up, because they're like, well, I'm not, not really into BDSM stuff, and I definitely am not good at acting, so
it could be light, it doesn't have to be a like, let's buy a whole new dungeon. Like, it could just be like, oh, would you like a little finger on your bum hole? Doesn't have to go in, could just be placed on your bum hole. That's quite nice.
Yeah.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. How do you like spice up vanilla sex? Like, if you are just like someone that doesn't like pain or doesn't really care for role play, like what is it that you can bring into sex for the vanillas?
I'm like that, I'm not really into BDSM and role play and things like that. And I've never thought I'm into vanilla sex. It doesn't feel like I'm into vanilla sex.
It feels wrong saying it like I am into
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I don't want to shame.
There's a lot of vanilla sex judgment in the world.
Yeah,
Isn't
there
there?
really is. Yeah, which we need to abolish, because vanilla sex isn't like not as exciting as BDSM or kink. It's like they are two very different forms of sex, and they are both like, they both need to be respected. And there's both a lot of like pros and cons to both of them. I feel like people who are into vanilla sex are like, oh, I'll be cool, or like, this is the next level if I'm into kink. And it's like, people are just it's just not into it. If you're not into it, why are you forcing it? My
best sexual experiences have been very, very vanilla.
Yeah. Comfortable.
Ooh, I think, actually, I just thought of something that would be really good to explore if you're into vanilla sex. Just like really slow sex.
Yes. You almost took the words out of my mouth. That would be my first thing to go to, is like really slow down, like to the point where, because it's something, speed is something we all can have some control of, right, when it comes to sex. If we bring a level of consciousness, like we were speaking about before, we can change the speed, we can vary the speed as well. And again, you can keep it inside the vanilla and so forth. And then even tiny things like music. Do you want to play around with playing music or not playing music, right? Where we have sex in our homes or outdoors, right? If you want to keep it in the home, and the bed is it's the easiest place to have sex, right? It's the most comfortable as well, right?
I fucking love the bed.
The bed's very comfy.
I love the bed. It's great. But I mean, even something like lube or sex toys, a lot of people don't introduce sex toys, or even just like booking a hotel room so you can go and enjoy it, and sex isn't necessarily on the cards. The pressure of sex can be quite like too much. I feel like we both experienced that, Florence, where we've put pressure on our own sex lives, on our partners, and then that's caused issues and conflict, and yeah, I mean, I think the best advice I had was when I went to see a sex therapist with my last partner, and she was like, right, well, for a week, don't have sex. You're not allowed to have sex. It's off the cards. And we were so fucking horny for each other. I was shocked. I was so shocked. He was, he was like really into it. He was like, yeah, I'm not worried that I'm gonna not fuck you right or not give you what you want because sex isn't there anymore. And we almost caved because we were that horny. This is mad.
Wow. That's beautiful. I think some people as well fear getting into relationships because there is such a stereotype that in a long-term relationship, sex will phase out and will get bad. Why do we fear this so much?
I'm terrified of monogamy for that very reason. I've just had like a mind-blowing moment. Just like, is that why? Sorry, just to cut in there. Sorry, please answer, David. That would make a hell of a lot of sense because I don't want to have like the fear. Okay, please teach me, David. I need your words of wisdom.
I work with a few clients, a few men who come to me with this thing, and I have nothing against polyamory, open relating, ethical non-monogamy. I think it's a great structure for many people. But I think one of the things when it comes to the fear around long-term relationships and sex is that we get told so much that's how it is.
Yes.
Everywhere you go, you watch movies, you watch TV, your parents will tell you, your uncles, your aunts, your older friends, everyone is always telling you, in long-term relationships, sex gets boring.
The sex
Everyone's
dies.
always telling you.
Always.
The ball and chain.
Yeah, and the language, right? The language we use around relationships.
It's so negative.
Well, like even like
heavy.
me old man, me old lady is a bit like, what? Are they old?
I think the thing that you said, Reed, is really interesting. But like how do you differentiate between like wanting an open relationship and being scared of monogamy?
Yeah, like is that just like a deep dive into therapy and to go into the psyche and be like, oh, I actually want monogamy, but I just want to be able to fuck like rabbits until I die?
Yeah,
I think I would say when you are in, try both, right? Try things, right? We're living beings. You go try life, go try out life and see what works for you, right? But it's coming up against what comes up. Is it fear? Because most of our fears are really unfounded, right? For the most part, right? Other than our kind of primal fears. A lot of them are things we've learned. So if you're in a monogamous relationship, you're like, oh my God, the sex is going to get boring. That's your fear. And then you have to ask yourself a really simple question. Is that true? Is that the only option, right? And then the can follow up with is like, okay, how could I focus on what I would love? And what would I love is to have great, endlessly various sex with my partner that goes to new depths, for instance. That might be something I would really love. And you go, okay, how can I do that? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do right now, today, to start on this journey of having that?
Yeah.
Because though, like I said, when we look at, say, being polyamorous, it's easy to think, okay, having variety is easy because we have a variety of human bodies, right? Whereas with one person, you can bring a variety of energy into your relationship. You can take on new personas. You can play around with, leading and surrendering. You can play around with, if it comes down to, different polarities, we can play around. But what it takes, in my experience, right, is to go deeper with one person, right? And that can be scary for us because it means deeper intimacy. And a lot of us really, we are afraid of intimacy because, we're scared of being seen, we're scared of being hurt and things like that.
Vulnerability.
But exactly, the vulnerability side of things. So it's to kind of look at yourself, right? And look at where, am I taking the easy option out, right? Because we live in a society where we can always take an easy option out when it comes to relationships and dating. It's like where I come across clients who are afraid of commitment. They're like, oh, commitment's not for me, blah, 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 blah. And we talk and then we realize that actually they've just never been in a relationship where they could feel that they were free in the relationship to be themselves.
What would you say to people that are just like, I don't want a relationship?
That's their prerogative, really, And again, if it kind of comes to me, it's like, why don't you want a relationship? What is there? Is it, what do you think is possible for you inside a relationship, or what do you assume is what relationships are like? And then I often I've done with quite a few clients is when they're like, I don't want a relationship. Relationships are all bad. I lose my freedom. I feel trapped. You know, all it is conflict and stress, blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay, cool. I want you to take a look in your life for anyone you know, friends or family, and think about their relationship. Is there anyone's relationship you like the look of, or you think, okay, what you would like to take from these different relationships, right? And then maybe come back to me and go, okay, so there's my uncle. I really love how, you know, they're playful and they're fun together. And there's my friend Joe. And Joe, him and his, you know, girlfriend, they always have a lot of sex and this, and this. And you end up with the characteristics of what your relationship would you like it to be like. And go, if you had a relationship like that, would you be happy? Would you feel good? And then usually people are like, yeah, I'd love that. And you go, well, how can you create this? Because often we have this negative assumption that we go to very quickly because of some past experience. Right? Yeah. And it's to see that we get to create our experience in life. And that includes relationships. Not all relationships are the same. If you've had bad experiences before, we can work through why you're recreating that. And we start to make different decisions and different choices.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I feel like with all my breakup stuff, I've kind of opened up about like parts of the reasons and stuff, and one of them was that my partner didn't want a relationship, so it got to a point where I was like, I can't be in a relationship with someone that doesn't want to be in a relationship. But the amount of people that have got in touch with me afterwards saying I've been in exactly the same situation, that makes me think like, wait, how come everyone's in a relationship with people that don't want to be in a relationship? Because if surely they didn't want to be in a relationship, they wouldn't be in a relationship at all.
Oh my God, I feel like that's me. Like, I feel like I'm in that moment where, like, I'm in a relationship and I don't want to have a boyfriend, or, like, I don't want to have that right now.
But you like all the nice things of the relationship.
Yeah, right? It's hypocritical, surely. Like, I am that person. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't want to be boyfriend and girlfriend. No, like, I'm scared of that term. I almost feel like, I don't know, there's a lot of, like, it's too soon. I really want to be like a powerful single woman, and I can't be if I have a boyfriend. You know, there's I know. I'm sitting here like, oh my God, I need to write this down. Like, holy fucking shit. Yeah, that is fascinating because a lot of people, you're right, a lot of people are in relationships that are literally basically the epitome of boyfriend, girlfriend. They are literally girlfriend, boyfriend, whichever terminology you use. They are relationships, yet. Like, what is it about that phrase? What is it about being, like, as well? Because it's like the opposite side. Relationships are seen as, like, success statuses. So why is it that I'm trying to shy away from it? Why do people shy away? Like, why they don't want to get in there? Is it just because of past trauma and fear?
Meaning. It's the meaning, isn't it? Say the word relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend. If you start thinking about the first words that come to you or the emotions that come to you, right? That's the indicator. That's the meaning you give to those things, right? Because ultimately, for me, and I was the same, right? I probably go back 7-8 years ago, right? And I thought relationships were the worst thing in the world. They never worked. They're full of stress. You know, the women that I believed all women were just like full of conflict and didn't want me to be free and blah blah blah, and all those type of standard kind of tropey things that we hear from men. And it wasn't I started to really unpack through coaching and then later on through therapy what relationship meant to me. It was this heavy term, and like I had a lot of negative connotations towards it. Now, we can just use a different word. You can call it partnership, for instance. How about partnership? Now that sounds like a nice word, right?
Yeah,
you're in partnership. It's a two-way thing of two people coming together, or union. Union's a really nice word. We come into union together, right? Or you know, it's like boyfriend and girlfriend is another one, right? Because it's just like we feel this almost like we're locked into something. You know, I've heard a lot of people relate to boyfriend girlfriend like prison. You know? And we were saying earlier, right? We're saying some of the terms, you know, about ball and chain and things like that. It's a lot about, you know, being locked in. So sometimes we just need to shift how we view certain terms. It's not the entity, the actual thing that we don't like. Like, we want to be in union with another human being who we care for, who cares for us, and we enjoy the intimacy and so forth. Those things we feel comfortable with a lot of the time. But it's the word we label it with is actually, it's the label that causes us more stress and pain than anything.
Yeah, like when you said that, like what the term boyfriend brings up, like I immediately, like, eyes watered. I was like, I just feel like pain and like length and heartbreak, like long-term heartbreak of feeling, you know, undesired, and just like almost like knowing that boyfriend means it's gonna go to shit, which is a horrible feeling to, like, a horrible thought to have, because it's not true. I can't predict the future. I can't see what it's going to be like. It's just all based on past trauma, right?
Yeah. A lot of people feel trapped, I think, by the word relationship, the word boyfriend, girlfriend.
Even more so wife and husband. That scares me even more. I'm like terrified of that. I remember saying to my last partner, if you ever propose to me, I will leave you. Like the opposite direction, because I'm like, well, then you clearly don't understand me and know what I want. But I think it's just fear. It's just the idea of being married to someone is like even more, in my eyes, in my opinion, even more of a trap, which is really fucked up. That's not cool, man. It's supposed to be a beautiful, nice thing.
Yeah. How do we redefine this? Because I think everyone's going to come into situations where one person in the relationship wants a label and one doesn't, or I don't know, maybe both people don't want the label, but there's going to be other people in their lives that label them.
Yeah.
So we're always going to come across the fear wall. Like, how do we? Yeah, what do we do with that? How do we change the way we look at these labels?
And I, like you read, when I think of the word, not necessarily so much now, it has a lot less charge to me than it used to. Marriage used to be like, oh my God, I'm with someone and they talk about marriage. Can I breathe? I'm not sure if I can breathe. I can't listen. I want to just run out the door. It used to be like that for me. And I started to challenge that and start to look at, like, okay, marriage, like, what is marriage? Marriage is like a commitment to each other, right? It also happens to be a document, a legally binding document, but let's put that to one side, because it's a commitment to one another. Okay, a commitment of what? Commitment of love, and you get to design what your marriage is like. You get to design. It's your choice. No one else gets to choose. You get to choose. And when I start to think about that, it's like, okay, so I could be in a marriage where we could be swingers, we could go to sex parties. That's still a marriage. Well, I like the sound of that. Yeah. And I'm in a marriage where I can go on holiday on my own, maybe for 2 weeks if I fancy. Oh yeah, I get to just use that as well. And we start to go, wait a minute. I start to lose some of the charge here. It starts to remove some of those fears, because the feeling of feeling trapped and suffocated, right, wasn't our own thoughts, really. It wasn't our own conclusions. It's the one we've been told so often through, like I said, it's so many
drilled into us.
Yeah, that when you get married, my dad said this to me once. Oh God, yeah. He said to me not that long ago, right? And my parents have never been together. My dad has never been married. He's got 5 children, right? And he was like, yeah, when people get married, they get boring.
Whoa, deep.
And I remember hearing that and being like, wow, yeah. Like as a negative assumption, a negative thought, you would never get married if you meant it meant becoming boring. So I started to ask him questions. I was like, what about this person? They're quite cool, they're quite fun. And he was like, and he was resistant to wanting to even acknowledge that, right? Because we want to hold on to our beliefs, right? So we have to first, a lot of it, we have to be like, am I willing to let go of this belief? Am I willing to let go? Am I willing to change this belief, right? And then we have to investigate that belief, where it come from maybe, but also alternative beliefs that we would like to bring in. Like, okay, I want to believe that marriage can be fun and exciting and interesting and full of great sex. And a bit like what I said earlier, is like, start going, okay, is there relationships around? Like, are there people I know who are married who are super cool and fun? Like, can I think of some celebrities who I think their marriage looks like this? Because then we start to break down our kind of internal kind of barriers and fears for ourselves. And one of the things that I do personally, and this is just, I do a lot of breath work these days. And I do lots of just like deep breathing when I realize that I come up against something that causes a reaction in my body, right? So talking about having babies, talking about marriage for many years brought a very, very strong physical reaction to my body, right? And I noticed that what happened is I stopped breathing. I couldn't think properly. I started to only think of my fearful thoughts that were in my head. And I stopped being able to feel into my partner who was in front of me often when we were having these conversations. So I learned a great technique from a book that I read, and it was just about breathing very deeply, feeling the soles of my feet tuning into my senses, and it allows me to dissipate those kind of bodily sensations when they come out. And I find that that's helped me so much over the last 3 years. It's a simple practice. It's like, I do this in arguments as well. It's like, okay, I'm in an argument. I'm feeling like I can't process what's happening because I'm just stuck in my fearful thoughts. Breathe deeply. Feel the ground, and like I'm saying to myself, and it brings me back into being present to what's happening, to the connection I have. So some of that somatic work can really help as well.
That's meditation.
Grounding. That's such an incredible point. I think that we need to end on.
This was such a beautiful conversation.
I honestly did not want it to end, and I'm just like, I just could listen to you all day with your nice calming voice.
You're so insightful.
Thank you.
Of course, if anybody else wants to get in touch with you, have a coaching session, like where can we find you? How do we get a hold of you?
You can find me usually hanging out on Instagram at @theauthenticman_. That's probably on the best place to get me. You can ask me questions and watch my videos and stuff like that. I've also got my podcast, The Authentic Man with David Chambers. There's like almost like 90 plus episodes of me talking about various things.
Amazing. And podcasts are like free therapy sessions, aren't they? Like Florence is knee deep in podcast therapy sessions right now.
Oh my God. During my this breakup, it's been 3 weeks. I have been podcasts have been my savior. If I'm ever at a really low moment and I need some reassurance if I ever feel overwhelmed with why did this happen? I don't understand it. Put in a podcast which is relevant, obviously, and then I'm like, okay, cool, I can breathe. I just listening to other people's experiences, and just someone saying to me, well, not to me, on the podcast, someone saying there doesn't have to be a why. Some things are just meant to happen. You can feel it if it's meant to happen. You can feel it. I was like, okay, cool.
Can breathe now. Fascinating.
So
well, hopefully everyone go and find David's podcast, have a listen, click into that knowledge. It's amazing. Is there anything else while we're here that you want to shout out about? Anything that's coming up that you want to scream from the rooftops?
Oh yeah, I've got a few workshops I'm running. I've got some workshops around things like sexual performance. I do a lot of work with men around sexual performance.
That's something we didn't get to talk to you about.
That was my follow-up question when we were talking about fear, and I was like, remember the sexual performance. We will have to have you back at some point and to talk about it, because I'm sure it's something that so many people, not just men, but people fear and causes a massive disrupt in their sex lives.
Yeah, thank you so much, David, for coming on. It has been so insightful and such an amazing conversation.
Yeah, I cannot wait to bring what you've taught me into this new relationship that I'm experiencing. I even said the word relationship. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
So thank you. It's definitely given me a lot to think about. So yeah, thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I've been keenly following you guys for quite a while. Been quite an inspiration for me.
Oh, I love this. And thank you, our curious fuckers, for having a listen. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have, of course, please share it to everyone and anyone that might benefit from it, because that's how we spread the joy. Basically. Yeah, so everyone, as well as rate, review it, do the 5-star thing on iTunes, because it actually helps us get into the charts. Is that what it's called? The podcast?
Yeah. If you rate and review us, more people can hear this. So.
Yeah. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, nice. But if you do want to see our beautiful faces and, of course, see David's beautiful face, you can watch it on YouTube, have it playing in the background, or alternatively, listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for your commute to work. Because, why wouldn't you want to listen to our voices all day, every day?
Yeah.
What else do we need to say? Instagram.
Follow us on Instagram at Florence Bark, Read Amber Eggs, and at Come Curious.
And we will see you next
we will hear you next week. You will see you next Thursday, Curious Fuckers.
Love you all. Bye.
Bye.